record. And we got, and we will stream it up onto Facebook too, just so that people who are watching will get alerted. Oh, you know what? I should have done that too. Yeah, I'm going to put it up on Facebook so that people who are not proficient in Zoom will have a chance to watch it too. So we're usually here in this room. We've got classes, and last night we had our Torah study. And now we're going to use the technology to get people excited and answer questions. Hopefully give people, we're going to give you as much information as you can tolerate right now, and then and answer all the questions that you've got. So I'm going to, in a moment, I'm going to pop up the PowerPoint and give people a chance to see some of what we just did. I will tell you that the February did give us some very good lessons. I learned from every trip that I've ever done, and I also will tell you that there is a new. Wait a second, weren't you just on phone? Oh no, it wasn't you.
Oh yeah, it's a different link.
Wait, were you on the phone and now you're here? No.
Well, no.
Okay.
I plugged it at home to the pipe, and that's where the astronomy was.
Oh, gotcha. All right. I am. I'm very confused by what you just said, Don. But so some people are joining us virtually, and some people are here. It's a mix. Hopefully when we go to Israel, everyone will be there. So
are you at the temple or at home?
Going in February, as I was saying, gave us a really good chance to see how I had been there. I'd been to Israel in July over the summer, just Tracy and I. And so I had a chance to see what Israel had, what changes. There's always changes, always new things going on. I hadn't been there since 2017, which is the longest that I haven't gone to Israel pretty much since I was a kid. So we've done 9 trips now through Temple Beth Ami. Every time we do a survey, every time we get feedback, this itinerary is similar to what we did in February, but there are some differences. And then this was the first trip we've done post-COVID. And so there are changes and things to take into consideration based on that. And we did have somebody that got COVID, tested positive, who had to go home. And that is the first time we've ever had anyone go home sick from one of our trips. It's not the first time we've ever had anyone be sick on one of our trips, obviously, but it's the first time that we've ever had someone go home. That's part of a new dynamic of COVID.
As they let them go home on a plane.
I will tell you, they did. They knew it. El Al knew it. El Al is not the only airline that does that. It reminds you that when you get on a plane, no one's tested anymore to get on your plane with you. So if you want to wear a mask on the plane, if you want to take precautions in certain situations, I go ahead and do that. If, and I don't normally do this, but I will tell you again, given what's happened, I don't normally recommend travel insurance. If you're a person who would go home, if you had COVID, if you tested positive for COVID, if if you're a person who would do that, and I'm not saying you should or you have to or anything else, but if that would be what you would do, then 100% get travel insurance. Yeah. Yeah.
You text them, you can't hear the conversation on the phone.
Yeah.
Break your leg in a week before.
Yeah.
Trips off.
Rabbi,
Wait, hold it. So, oh, people can't hear you, Don. You got
right, we can't hear the conversation.
Yeah, hold it 1 second. Give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna get a mic just in case people, because we can hear you. Those of you who are on Zoom, we can hear you perfectly, but let me get a mic. 1 sec. And we're gonna get,
I don't know what this is.
yeah, we're gonna get the mic on here. And if anyone has questions here, people at home, testing, 1, 2. Can you hear us there? Well, let's see. Let's see. No. Sorry. Can you hear Don?
No.
Can you hear it? Well, hold it 1 second. I got someone else to admit. Wait 1 sec. 1 second, Don. Don, I'm making sure Don's mic is live.
Ron got on.
Okay. Sure, with him, say hi, Ron.
Hi, Ron. I know you can't see me. I can't see you.
All right, Don, try it.
Yeah, see, you do it like on the bottom there, so I
Yeah.
think it's on as long and on.
Yeah, but it wasn't it on already?
Okay, can you hear all me that?
Yes.
It's coming through. Okay, but I had to press a button.
So here's my question.
Yeah.
Travel
Thank
insurance, because I know in different types of trips, people have taken tours and otherwise travel insurance is a topic to strongly consider. My question is this, to my understanding, there's 2 types of travel insurance. Sometimes they're offered through the tour company itself. And sometimes they're offered through a third party.
Yeah.
There's different ones, but so there's the insurance that's called cancellation for any reason. So you're getting ready to go on your trip, you break your leg, trips off, you've already booked everything. And that recovers the money that you spent to go on the tour.
Uh-huh.
Now, there's the other kind of trip insurance, which I think is the kind that we think about a little bit more in depth. And that's where you're on a trip and God forbid you come down with some serious condition or maybe even get stranded somewhere and you have to be medically evacuated to a facility. My knowledge is, of course, that the trip insurance for cancellation of any reason is going to have a very different policy level than the one that's evacuation for any reason. My experience has been, and I'm not necessarily relevant to this trip, is the cancellation for any reason. I never found that cost effective because the likelihood of it happening is pretty small compared to the amount of premium that you pay. But if you have to be evacuated or taken to a medical facility, as you can imagine, it can be extremely expensive. So that's why I'm wondering what type of insurance is available on those type of levels and how would the policy be issued? How would we obtain it if we choose to do that?
Yeah, so here, I'm gonna tell you this. To answer that question, I have, in my experience, I haven't found a travel insurance that I can recommend high enough because everyone I know who's had travel insurance has had problems or difficulties. It's not that they've never gotten their money back, but they've had problems doing it. I don't know of an insurance company, travel insurance company that's been easy to deal with. So I can't recommend somebody. That doesn't mean you shouldn't get it. I'm just saying I don't have and I can't vouch for the places that our company is going to recommend. I know it's expensive, and so it is it's not something that we do. We travel a lot, and we don't do it because it just we haven't heard good things about it, and we haven't used it. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's definitely something I understand why people do it. As I said before, if you think you'd go home, if you felt sick, then definitely do it. But it also depends on how often you travel. If you travel a lot and you go, hey, I travel a lot and for the amount of times I travel, I'll take a risk. If you don't travel a lot, maybe again, it's a different situation and people say, I'm going to protect my trip, but it's a lot of money. I mean, it's $400 or $500 a person and that's for any kind of insurance that's going to be worth it. So I can give some recommendations from what people have told me, but I can't vouch for any of them myself. I haven't used them myself, and I can only tell you what happened. I will tell you that on this trip, when the person who got sick, and she's talked about it, so I'm not giving away any private information, it was Rosemary Watson. She got sick, I think on the second day. She went home. She decided to go home and got herself a ticket and came home. I went out that night and bought 20 kits, testing kits. I've told some people about this because they're already laughing. 2 people tested.
Tested or used the
2
test?
people tested.
Yeah.
They didn't want to know.
They didn't want to
They
know.
don't want to know.
Want to know. So I can only tell you that's what happened. The most important thing, I didn't force anyone to test. I didn't say, hey, everybody's got to go out and test. I
you
did
have to
tell,
wait.
I
Yeah.
did tell her roommate, Elisa, to test. She tested and was negative and, but she only tested once. She didn't test we tested her immediately after, and then she didn't want to test anymore. She didn't seem like she was sick, but who knows? All I know is that
Well, you
that
should
was a
wait.
lesson.
You should wait. The incubation, if someone's been
Of course,
exposed,
of
it's like
course.
4 days.
Of course. So the test that we gave her was only, one time, but I had them. No one took me up on them. I get it. I learned. And that's an example of what I never had that before. Obviously, we never went on a trip after. So now I've learned. And so this is an example of something that I've learned from this trip. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, one more question.
Yeah.
And ask the last. But
Who's that?
the requirements. So my understanding is if somebody is in the country,
No, it's not.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
If, let's say you're over there and you have to take a flight back, or everyone's going to take a flight back. There's no requirements for vaccination to fly back into the United States.
I said that already. Yeah.
Yeah, but going there, what are the requirements? for
Nothing.
Flying.
There's
in
no
other words,
requirement.
There's no reason anyone should have to take a test. You should take your vaccination card. True, if you've been vaccinated.
You should always have your vaccination card with you.
But
Ever.
it's-
Nobody asked for it. It was never asked for. I will also tell you, in my experience, right now, in the last few years, you should always take proof of your medical insurance with you as well.
Sure.
I had a trip.
That's all I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, I got really sick. It was a bacterial infection on
Mm-hmm.
trip to Israel. This was way long time ago. And I just toughed it out. I mean, I didn't want to, but I wasn't going to pick up and fly home. But if you think you may be infecting other people, then it's a different issue. So that's all I wanted to add.
I was
We
gonna
have a
say,
nurse going on this trip anyways. So-
You're
No,
gonna
we're
have
not,
a
we're not, we're not making,
you
we're
can have
not,
a baby.
we're not making Randy
Um,
work.
no, I was gonna say, as far as the medical issue, you should check with your insurance company, because a lot of them you can buy. You let them know you're going overseas and they will, give you like an extension for like if a catastrophic something happens. So you don't need that extra.
That's good to know. It's a good-
Yeah, you should check with your insurance company first to see. Yeah,
Mhm.
right. Yeah.
All right, well, hold on to the mic. Oh, sure.
Audie.
We haven't even started yet. That's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
Audrey.
We get off topic.
Australia, New Zealand.
What was
Yeah.
that?
We just came back from a big trip and I was talking to my doctor and I was concerned about getting COVID. We're going to be on a cruise and being stuck in he gave me a prescription for the medication.
Yeah.
Paxil, and they were not happy at the pharmacy. She thought I had COVID and I explained to her, she goes, well, doctors aren't supposed to do that. But anyway, my doctor did, and that would have helped probably some people on Rabbi's trip.
I can't vouch for that and I will not give medical advice, but, all right, so hold on to the mic out there. You can keep it on. You can, keep it on. So that way you won't have to remember. The batteries won't die. All right, so let's go into the presentation. I do want to say one other thing before I start the presentation, which has the 2 biggest questions that people ask about now are health-related issues, which all I can tell you is not one person got asked whether they were vaccinated, whether they were had health insurance, but I recommend carrying that information with you. There was, some people wore masks on the bus, some people didn't. I will tell you now one thing about security. So this is Israel's 75th anniversary. There is heightened security right now, though we didn't really see it on our trip. We're always cognizant of security. There was a shooting today in Israel, this afternoon. We're monitoring the situation always. We would never take people into a place that was dangerous. The most dangerous place that we went to on this last trip in February, last month, it's hard to believe it was last month, but the most dangerous place we went to was into Bethlehem, which is in the West Bank. We went because we had about half of our group was Christian and some of the people wanted to go to Bethlehem. It was fine. I hadn't been into Bethlehem in 30 years, maybe 35 years. I hadn't been there. We felt safe there. We had a Palestinian guide. We had our driver, Israeli driver. It's 10 minutes, 15 minutes from Jerusalem. It's a whole nother world. And unfortunately, the attack that happened today, where at least as of now, the only person who died was the terrorist. It is a sad situation that over the last 30 years, and you'll see it while we're there, Israel erected a security border to stop people from coming in. The person who was responsible for the terrorist today was somebody who had been arrested 2 times and lived in the West Bank, from what they reported, 23-year-old. And for the most part, people from the West Bank can't get into Israel now. And a lot of people have talked about it. It's a sad fact of the situation now. There are a lot of very nice Palestinian folks who they're the ones who are most affected by this. Israelis, for the most part, are not affected by it. They're not looking to go into the West Bank. There's not reasons to go there unless they have homes there. And there are people who drive back and forth every day, Israelis who live in the West Bank, hundreds of thousands of them. But it's very sad for the average Palestinian. Our Palestinian Christian guide, who took us around Bethlehem, George, I asked him when the last time he was in Israel. He hadn't been in Israel for 4 years. He lives 10 minutes away. He can see Jerusalem from his house. He hasn't been into Israel for 4 years. He has 2 kids. He says this summer, hopefully we'll be able to go to the beach. I can't imagine what it's like. This is a guy who's paying the price for the terrorists, that are living in the West Bank. So, I can't imagine what it's like to have to. So I said, "What do you do with your family?" He goes, we go around the West Bank. We go to other cities and villages in the West Bank." But he essentially hasn't been out of that area in 4 years. Now, partly it was because of COVID, but it's very sad. So that's a reality of the security there. I do think that between now and June, there will be other incidents. I'm almost sure of it because Israel is celebrating the 75th anniversary. Passover's coming up. Israel's Independence Day is at the end of April on the Jewish calendar. It's at the beginning of May on the secular calendar. I think that, people who hate Israel are going to use that as an excuse. I do think it'll probably quiet down after the 15th of May. But Israel's, obviously going to be extra vigilant right now. The government in Israel currently is, I think probably everyone knows here, is the furthest right-wing government that they've ever had, partly because most Israelis have despaired of a 2-state solution and really feel that right now the only thing they can have is good security, at least for the time being. They don't expect that there's going to be a Palestinian country anytime in the near future, at least now. So this is the situation as I see it. People asked me, because we had a terrorist incident in Jerusalem 2 or 3 days before we went. And people asked me, did I feel safe going to Israel? I told people, hey, there was a shooting 2 weeks ago before we left in Monterey Park that 13 people were killed.
Anti-Semitism is.
But that was in the Asian community. While we were there, while we were in Israel, while we were literally in Jaffa, the morning 2 mornings before we left, there was a shooting, 2 shootings in Pico Robertson. So those were anti-Semitic shootings.
Today there was
And-
a big shooting at a.
Yeah.
At a. Adventist or, church. Massacre.
Was it today?
Yeah.
That was,
No.
anyways, listen, I will tell you, we live in a world where if we were scared to do, things because of what could possibly happen, we would never leave our house. And I don't need to say anything to this guy over here because this guy's daughter was yards away from the shooting in Saugus 4 years ago. So I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I would not knowingly take people to a dangerous place. And so we will not go to places like people have said before, why don't you go to Hebron? Why don't you go to the cave of Machpelah where Abraham and the patriarchs and matriarchs are buried? It's too dangerous as a situation. It's not likely going to be a problem, but I don't want to have to take people on an armored bus into the place where Abraham and Sarah are buried. No, in Hebron. Jericho is also in the West Bank, and there's absolutely no reason to go to Jericho other than to see, where the excavated wall is, which may or may not have been the wall described in the Bible. But you can look for 2,000 years, there were 4 holy cities in Israel that every Jew, when they made a pilgrimage to Israel, would go to: Jerusalem, Hebron, Sfat, and Tiberias, 2 in the north and 2 in the middle. We go to all of them except for Hebron. Now, Hebron people went to because that's where the patriarchs and matriarchs were buried. We don't go there. I haven't been there in, again, probably 35 years, but people used to go there. The cave of Machpelah used to be on itineraries. It's only 20 minutes from Jerusalem, but we can't get people on and off. I can't justify putting people in a situation like that where they're going to be risking their lives to essentially go to a tomb. You're going to see tombs, and we're going to go to burial places in Israel, but we don't focus on that. That's not there are people who go to Israel and that's all they do is they go to tombs of rabbis and the patriarchs and different biblical people. It's just not, to me, it's not the most exciting part of Israel, but Hebron was a place and we don't do it. And so it is what it is. I will tell you, we'll never take people into a place that's dangerous. Any questions about security? So let's do a little bit of the slideshow that we have here. So as I mentioned, 9 trips that we've taken since 2006. I will tell you a really weird thing on this trip. Weird situation. I ran into one of our tour guides that we used for the first few trips that we went to, Hillel. It was a great tour guide. But we also I ran into Hillel up in the Tiberias area. At the end of the trip, we drove back from Jordan. We had to get on in Jordan, you have to go on Jordanian buses. They don't let Israeli buses take people around in Jordan. We got back on a different Israeli bus driver than we had for the week and a half that we were in Israel. So we went to Israel, we're going to Jordan, and we come back. The bus driver, on the way back, he was only our bus driver for an hour and a half. He comes up to me when I get on the bus. He says, "I was your bus driver, I think, in 2006 on our first trip." He goes, "I saw you talking to Hillel up in Tiberias, and I remembered you." He says, "You guys bought a Torah in Sfat in 2006. I said, "Absolutely." And then I found a picture of him in my pictures. Yeah. And then he was so touched that I found a picture of him, and we had a lot of pictures. So yeah, it was crazy. And so, but that's the kind of stuff that happens when you're in Israel, and it happens when we have these kinds of experiences. So that picture on the right, well, the picture on the left is with a minister of the Knesset, Ephraim Snat, who came and spoke to us in one of our meetings. And we always have a chance to meet some people from Israel who've got some interesting stories to tell. He's not in the Knesset anymore, but he was. And his father was in the Knesset too. This is our tour guide for this trip. His name is Daniel Weitzman. I spoke to him again 2 days ago. He is a very smart dude. His English is fantastic. He also speaks fluent French. He's from Switzerland originally. He was born in Switzerland. So he's kind of on the younger side of the tour guides that we've had, but he's a very knowledgeable guy. We talked about some of the things that he likes the most. He lives in the north. He lives in the Tiberias area. So I had a chance to talk to him about our itinerary and whether he thought he could take it on. We do have a pretty intensive itinerary. We'll go through it now. I'll show you the day by days what we're going to be doing. So the first day we get there, and again, we arrived to Tel Aviv, which is a little different than what we did on our February trip. Tel Aviv, we're going to spend a little bit more time in because it's summertime, and Tel Aviv is definitely a city that comes alive in a different way in the summer. We're going to see, so some of this is not stuff that we saw in February. So like Lisa's mom and brother and cousin were on our February trip a month ago. I keep saying February trip, was 3 weeks ago, but it was a slightly different trip. So I want to tell people who've had friends who've gone, the Cogans have been on one of our trips in the past. Some of the stuff is stuff that they would have done, but parts of it are stuff that we haven't done before. And parts of it, I know some of you have done. So the first day we get there, people take their own flights in. We'll coordinate your pickup so that you're taken from the airport to Tel Aviv, which is about 20 minutes away. We're staying on the beach, a hotel that's right off the beach. It's a nice hotel that is kind of, it's the equivalent of like, being on, I was gonna say it's like being in Santa Monica. That's probably the closest equivalent. So it is called the Harrods Hotel in Tel Aviv, and we'll be there for the first night we get in. Just basically, you get acclimated. Many of us, if you're flying on my flight, I'm flying El Al. We're getting in at like about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. By the time we get to the hotel, probably about 4. On this trip, it took us very little time to get through the airport. I mean, we were through customs in 20-25 minutes. It's all biometrics. It's all the luggage was right there for us when we came out. It was very quick, but you'll be jet lagged, you'll be tired. And so the first day we give everyone a chance to hang out in Tel Aviv. You can go out for dinner. And that's the first day. The arrival day on Monday, the 19th. On the 20th, that's when we're actually going to start our day going around. Well, the first day is actually not going to be a super early day. We're going to be going, we're going to be in Tel Aviv. We're staying the next night in Tel Aviv too, which is nice. And we're going to be going to, it's a slight change from what we originally put out. We're actually going to be going to the Anu Museum, it used to be called the Museum of the Diaspora, Beit Hatfutzot. They recently completely they redid it. And it's an amazing museum which really charts the history of the Jewish people for the last 2,000 years. And interestingly, about Jewish communities outside of the land of Israel. So it's called Anu, A-N-U. And we originally weren't going to go, but we took people to Beit Hatfutzot the first few years, and people, they liked it, but I think some people thought, hey, I don't need to come and go to a museum. But they've recently, if you look up the museum, it's phenomenal. And the Stolmans, for example, who just went on our trip, they went there. They were there. They got to Israel a couple of days early, and they went to the Anu Museum, and they raved about it. And everyone I know who's gone there, it just opened, like beginning of the year, or end of last year, and so it's really, really, it's gotten much better, I guess. And so we're going to go there, and then we're also going to be going to the Carmel Market for a tasting in Tel Aviv, and so you'll have a chance to do some tasting and do some food in the Carmel Market. It's a little bit of an easier day. We're also that day then going to be going up to the Ayalon Institute, which I know the Kales went to, and they really found that to be interesting, right, Harvey? Harvey?
I was on mute. Yes, I thought it was great.
Tell
Fabulous.
people what the Ayalon Institute is, because you're one of the reasons why we added it. I mean, you're not the only reason, but you raved about it, and you are right. I've always thought it's interesting. And I think especially this year, the 75th anniversary of Israel, it's a cool thing to say. So in a couple sentences, just explain what it is.
Well, you had on the independence, you had the Palmac, the fighting for independence. Where did they get their ammunition? They got it from the Aeolon Institute, which is really a kibbutz, where underground they developed like a room where they developed and they manufactured the ammunition. But it's the story of how they did it and how they never got caught, which was extremely interesting.
Yep. So that's the Aeolon Institute. It kind of tells the story of the fight for Israel's independence in 1948, 49. That's day 2. So then the next day, we're actually going to be going to we're going to be heading off to Jerusalem. So we will on the first day, we'll be driving from Tel Aviv. By the time we get to Jerusalem, probably be about 10:30 by the time we get into Jerusalem. We're going to be doing some interesting things in Jerusalem, which we don't usually do, or sometimes we don't do because it's easier to do it in the summer. We're going to be going to, well, I'll get to that. So we're going to go to the Davidson Center, which just recently reopened. It's the center where you learn about the history of Jerusalem, the Temple Mount. Davidson family is the family from Detroit that owned Guardian Glass and the Detroit Pistons. So they paid for this amazing historical museum and archaeological preservation at the old city, right at the wall. So we're going to be going to the Davidson Center. It was not open when we were there 3 weeks ago. So it was open. The Kogans went there and other people have gone there. We always go to the Davidson Center. About the only time we didn't go was in February because it just reopened 3 days ago. So they went through an updating of that. So it's very cool. We're going to go there. We're going to, of course, go to the wall. We'll be at the wall. And then we're actually going to be doing a very interesting tunnel in Jerusalem that some people do, but many more people just do the Western Wall tunnel. We're actually going to be taking people on Hezekiah's tunnel, which is a tunnel where, you don't have to do it if you don't want to, but it is a tunnel where you can get waders, but you can't get wet. Why? Because it's the tunnel that brought in the water from the pool of Siloam into Jerusalem during the biblical period, and it allowed people to have water in Jerusalem when the city was under siege. And when we read about it in the book of Kings, it's where King Hezekiah was able to withstand the Assyrian army's siege by bringing in this water. So it's talked about in the Bible. It's alluded to in the book The Source by Mishner. Talks about the No, it was a real tunnel that was built by Hezekiah, King Hezekiah. And so we'll have a chance to go through it. We never do it in February because it's too cold. So this is something we can only do now, and they're continuing to do excavations in that area. So like, even if you went there 10 years ago, there's even more there. You start off in the city of David, which is actually outside the wall of Jerusalem, and then you go into the city of Jerusalem. Yeah.
I just recall, so it's actually that underground area under the wall.
Yeah.
Can you go through that?
Yeah. So depending on, again, how much of the tunnels we get to go through, we'll go through the tunnel by the wall as well. But the Hezekiah tunnel, many less people go into the Hezekiah tunnel, but you will be, that's the day where you're going to see the wall for the first time. If you've never been to Israel, you'll see it for the first time. It'll be the first time you see it. If you're going on this trip and you're not going to go there between now and then, it'll be the first time you see the wall from now. So it's very exciting. And so that's kind of the old city, the tour of the old city. We'll be staying at a hotel called the Lady Stern Hotel, named after one of the first kind of like Jewish hotel people from 100 years ago in Israel, the Lady Stern Hotel. And we'll be there Wednesday night. And then Thursday, we are going to do something very cool, which we only can do in the summer, is we're actually going to be going to a dig at Beit Guvrin. Now, it's an archaeological dig. It is not a dig for, it's not like you have to have been an archaeologist. It's somewhere between like, going panning for gold when you go to Sacramento with your kids on their trip. But it does give you a sense of what a dig looks like. It is an amazing place, Beit Guvrin. It goes back to 2,000 years ago, to the Maccabean period. And it has been open for the public for a while, but it's a really good way of understanding what archaeologists do. And so it's another thing that we really only can do during the summer. So you'll get to go to Beit Guvrin. If you do not want to go out into the dig, you don't have to. You don't have to get dirty. There's nothing, anytime, at any day, if you don't want to go out or if you want to stay back at the hotel, you absolutely can do that. And if you want to do something else at Beit Guvrin while people are getting dirty, you don't get really dirty, by the way. I just want to make it clear. If you want to, you can get dirtier, and you don't have to, though. It is not like you're going to be out in the hot sun, digging for people, but it gives you a kind of a feeling of what a dig is like. So we're also going to be able to see the Ella Valley on the way back, which is where David and Goliath fought their fight against each other. And we'll also see the Burma Road, which was the road that was made famous in the movie Exodus, where they actually had to figure out how to get supplies into a besieged Jerusalem during the 1948-49 War of Independence. You'll get to see Jerusalem kind of from the outside, on the outskirts. Just to kind of explain it, and you'll see it really when you're there. Israel won the War of Independence, obviously. It was a big war for them, for survival. A lot of people didn't think Israel would survive the first month. Israel wound up with a lot more territory in 1948 even than they thought. They wound up with chunks of the Galilee, chunks of the south that were not originally supposed to be part of Israel. But Israel did lose Jerusalem, the old city. It did not lose the new city, but it lost the old city. So for 20 years, 19 years, the wall was cut off from Jews. We couldn't go there. And so that was a terrible loss, and you'll see it and understand it a little bit when we're there, where that border was from 48 to 67. So you'll see that when we're in Jerusalem. You'll learn a little bit about it on the 75th anniversary of that war. And the next day, on Friday, we'll also be in in Jerusalem. And one of the important things we're going to be doing that day is celebrating our B'nai Mitzvah. We're going to have our young people. We have 4 people that are going to be reading Torah that morning on Friday. They're going to be at the wall. We'll be at a different part of the wall that day. And so we're going to have that in the morning. In the afternoon, we're going to go to another part of the new city of Jerusalem. We're going to go to Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Memorial, and we're going to go to Mount Herzl, which is the cemetery where the soldiers, it's Israel's Arlington Cemetery. It's also where Israel's prime ministers, most of them are buried, and Golda Meir is buried there. Most of the Herzl is obviously buried there, but Yitzhak Rabin and his wife are buried there. Not David Ben-Gurion, he's not buried there. Menachem Begin's not buried there, but most of Israel's prime ministers are buried there. And so we'll have a chance to that's one of the few cemeteries that we will go to is Har Herzl. So that's on Friday. And we'll also, at the end of the day, we'll come back, give everyone a couple hours to relax. We're going to go back to the old city into where the wall is, the Kotel, for Kabbalat Shabbat. We'll be able to sing Lachadodi and be at the wall as Shabbat comes in, which is an experience that some people thought was the highlight of their whole trip, was being at the wall for Shabbat. We'll come back. Shabbat dinner is at the hotel. It's included in the trip. It's a nice buffet dinner where you'll be able to have a relaxing Shabbat dinner. A friend of mine, cantor Evan Cohen, will come and sing some Shabbat songs with us. He's the cantor in the synagogue in Jerusalem, Har El, which is the oldest Reformed synagogue in Israel. He'll also be conducting the B'nai Mitzvah with us in the morning. So you'll have a chance to meet Evan, talk to him about what it's like to be an American Jew living in Israel. And so that's Friday. Saturday is Shabbat. Now, on the last trip, that's the day we went into Bethlehem. And we're not going into Bethlehem on this trip. But if you want to go into the Christian quarters of Jerusalem, we do give that as an option. Our tour guide will take people on a walking tour of the Christian quarter in Jerusalem, the Via Dolorosa, the street of the walk of tears that Jesus went before his crucifixion at the Mount Calvary, at Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So if you want to go on that excursion, you can. It's an option. Otherwise, you can rest on Shabbat. You can go to the synagogue down around the corner. The HUC has a service in English. Hebrew Union College has a service in English that we've gone to in the past. And I also, that afternoon, if people want, we go to the Israel Museum, and we can spend some time at the Israel Museum if you'd like to go to the museum. That's where the Dead Sea Scrolls are. Yep. And so you have a chance. We will go to the Israel Museum later on the next day, give people a chance to see it, a little bit of it, or actually maybe on Friday if we have time. But if you want to have more time, the Israel Museum is the equivalent of the Smithsonian, because they have they have the Dead Sea Scrolls, but they also have amazing all the archaeological treasures of Israel. The main ones are there. And then they also have a beautiful art museum, and they have they have everything there. There's many sections there. And they have the art museum has some beautiful modern pieces and other pieces. So the Israel Museum is definitely something that if you want to explore on Saturday, you'll have a chance to do that. And it's a walking distance. It's not where the Chagall window is, but there are Chagalls there at the Israel Museum. Yeah. There's everything. There's Anish Kapoor has a sculpture there. There's Rodin's. There's like lots of stuff at the Israel Museum that you'll be like, oh, this is an amazing museum. So, but you have a chance to see it on Saturday, or you take a rest. People definitely need to have a rest. Sunday is when we're going to be leaving Jerusalem. And let me just, that's Mount Herzl. I didn't show you the new parts, and Yad Vashem, or Herzl and Yad Vashem. And so then the next day, we're going to be heading out to the desert. And we're going to first start the day at Masada. So we go from Jerusalem to Masada, which is about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. It's a decent drive. We drive down to Jericho, and then we drive south to Masada. We'll be at Masada for the morning, and that day we'll probably leave. My guess is I hope we can leave pretty close to 8:30 so that we can get to Masada by 10. The reason is that we go to Masada first. We'll be up there for about an hour and a half, 2 hours by the time we come down, and then we go to the Dead Sea. We'll have lunch at the Dead Sea, and we'll also give people a chance to relax at the Dead Sea. Yes. Will we have a chance to walk it? That's a good question. It kind of depends on how early we get out. If you've already gone, like Don, if you don't want to spend as much time up on the top exploring, you definitely can. We have a limited amount of time from the standpoint of, we have a couple hours there. The walk up takes about an hour and a half. The walk down honestly takes about half hour, 40 minutes. It's much, much quicker on the way down. You have to be careful on the way down, but it is walkable, and it just means you spend less time up on Masada. It's going to be hot, but it's not, we're going to do it in the morning, which is why we're, well, it's not going to have snow. It's not going to have snow in June, but it's not going to, that I promise. It's good. I know, but it's not in June, but again, Don, if you definitely, if we have enough time, we get there early enough, you definitely have the opportunity to do that. I would recommend walking down than walking up. And there's a cable car both ways. That's what we did last time. We didn't have an option. So yeah, there are people who want to walk up. So that's Masada. And then we go from there to the Dead Sea, which everybody's got to go to the Dead Sea. You don't have to, but you go there, and it's one of the crazy things that, yeah, you got to go. I don't have to do it because I've done it before, but everybody wants to try it, and it is something to try. So we'll have lunch, go into the water there. And then from there, we're going to go to another really cool place, which is En Gedi. And En Gedi, which I don't have a slide for En Gedi. Oh, we didn't go this last time, but En Gedi is a natural oasis. It's where King Saul chased King David there. And it's a really nice springs. We went there, the Cogans, we went there because I remember these guys jumped into the water at Engedi. I'm not saying you have to, but you can if you want, jump into the water at Engedi. What? I think so. Anyways, Engedi is a natural springs. There's a waterfall there if there's enough water, and it's pretty. It's very pretty. So that's where we're going to finish that afternoon. So we start at Masada, we go to the Dead Sea, and then we go to Engedi, and then we go from there up to Tiberias, and that's our night that we spend. The first night in the north is that night. So it's a little different than what we did on our trip in February, where we went to Masada and then came back into the Dead Sea, and we came back to Jerusalem, and then the next day we went up north. This time we're going east. We're going to go to the Jordan Valley. We're going to go down to Masada, and then we're going to start going up the 90, which is the road that goes along the Jordan River north-south. It's the longest road in Israel. It goes the north-south road, and we go up to Tiberias. Yes.
That's a stupid question.
No.
At the Dead Sea, if we go in, are there places to change?
Oh, yeah. No, it's not a stupid question. There's bathrooms, there's showers, 100%. It's not a stupid question. No, it's important. Yeah, there's restaurants, there's food. I mean, we're gonna be, there's one of two beaches we're gonna go to. It's a little, we have to play it by ear a little bit because there are, it's not that there's weather conditions. It's always hot. It's always dry there. But believe it or not, the Dead Sea is dying. It really is. It's dying, and it keeps going down and going down and going down. So sometimes it's just not. It doesn't make sense to go to certain beaches because they're not good. They're just not in good shape. But we'll know before that day which beach we're going to. But I promise you, it'll be the best beach we can go to at the Dead Sea. And again, you go there, people love it. But it's the Dead Sea, and it's not like you're doing something that's just so bizarre and so weird. But I can tell you, you're going to want to get that salt off you right away. The lowest point on earth. Jason did get it. Yeah, your brother did get it in his eyes. He just didn't. Yeah, and then we had our pastor John Shaver. He got really red because he shaved. I don't know, he shaved with a butter knife or something. And he didn't like it. Yeah, the same thing goes, I will say, for people who are shaving their legs and whatever, be careful. Don't do it the night before you go. Well, you can, it's just gonna hurt. But it's gonna, if you like that, it'll definitely hurt. But it does heal very quick. It is amazing how quickly it heals. So we get up to Tiberias in the afternoon, evening that day. It's about an hour and a half, about almost 2 hour drive. It's our longest drive from Engedi up to Tiberias, but it's still only about 2 hours, so it's not like it's super long. And then the next day we start our journey around the Galilee. And in the Galilee on this trip, we're going to be doing a few different things. We are going to give you a chance to see what life was like in the Galilee, which was really the center of Jewish life in Israel. For after Jerusalem was destroyed, Jewish life really moved up to the north. And so we're going to have a chance to see that. One of the most important things we do, and we're going to hopefully give people, one of the complaints we had for February was we didn't have enough time in Tzfat. We're going to go to Tzfat this time and give people more of a chance to see Tzfat. Tzfat is, it's an amazing city. It really gives you a sense of, of what life was like for Jews from the Middle Ages on, what the Jewish community was like in Israel. Again, as I said, it was one of the holy cities that people would go to when they were up when they would make the pilgrimage. A lot of great rabbis live there. The synagogues there are famous. The other thing that's really famous is that people like to get art. There's a lot of art, Jewish art in Tzfat, and people wanted to have a little bit more time to shop and to look at some of the gift stores in Tzfat. So it's also beautiful. You can see this picture here. There's Doreen up by the the mountain, on top of the mountain, you get to look out over the hills of the Galilee, and it's really pretty. It's kind of high up spot, and so you get a chance to see it. We're also going to go to Tsipori. You'll have a chance to see what Jewish life was like during the Roman era in that area, and so it's pretty amazing to see the mosaics and the synagogues that have been excavated in Tsipori. So that's all in the Galilee. Yeah. And the next day, actually on that day, we're going to go to Capernaum and where you'll see where one of the important sites of Christianity, but also that building right there in the middle was a synagogue during the time of Jesus or after it as well. So 2,000 years ago, that's kind of what a synagogue looked like, at least a synagogue in Israel. Greco-Roman, you can see construction. But we'll also be going right now. It looks like we're probably going to be doing a boat cruise. We were looking at doing, and I know I had told people we were going to maybe do a rafting in Jordan that day. We're probably going to do a boat cruise instead, mainly because the rafting in the Jordan has not been very good, and the water level has been really low. We did a boating tour this last trip in February on the Sea of Galilee, and people really liked that. They preferred that experience on the Sea of Galilee. So we'll see. We'll see what the weather's like, and we'll see what the conditions are like. But I think it'll also be easier for people if we do the boat. We have done the rafting in previous years. I think Harvey, you might have. No, I don't think it was Harvey's trip, but it was a trip that we did in 2017. It was for anyone who's gone rafting in California or Oregon, or it's not real rafting. So it's a lot of mud, and it's not a lot of rapids. Yeah, it's on the Jordan, and the Jordan River is just not. It's just there's not a lot of water in it. It's pretty, but it's not. It's like a creek. So yeah.
The trip you're describing, is it what's posted on
Yeah,
the website?
yeah.
So you mentioned for that day, traditional clothing and a donkey ride.
Yeah, so that's it. That's at Kfar Kedem, which is the place that you saw in Tsipori. It's like that. That's what that is. So we'll see. You don't have to do that if you don't want to go on a donkey. You don't have to that day, but it is going to give you an idea of what life was like 2,000 years ago during the time of the Mishnah. So yeah. And Tzfat is from the Middle Ages, though, so it gives you an idea of what life was like in that area, both during the Roman period and during the Middle Ages. The next day, so that's the Galilee, that's in the north, and I'm going to do this real quick so people can see. What also is important for you to know is what we're talking about with regards to the geography, because when we go up to the Galilee, remember we're there for 3 nights. The first night, the night we get there, it doesn't really count because we're not going to be able to see much that first day we're there. You'll see Tiberias, but you won't really get to see the country. So when we're talking about, let me just put this up real quick. So here's Tiberias. This is where we're staying, and this is the Galilee up here. This is Tzfat. This is the area around all of these areas right here. Tsipori's over here. All of these places were important during the Mishnaic period 2,000 years ago. Over here, you have Kfar Nahum, Capernaum, Kfar Nahum, and all these areas in the Galilee were important during that period. The other part of the trip is the Golan Heights. So the Galilee is like on this side, and this used to be the border between Israel and Syria. Of course, Israel annexed the Golan Heights a while ago, and the United States only recently recognized it as part of Israel. But the Golan Heights is here. So on Tuesday, we're actually going to be exploring the Golan Heights. So we'll be going up on the Golan. We'll be going right up by here. you can see when we're here in Merom Golan, you'll actually look down onto, this is Syria right here. So you'll be about 5 miles from Syria. When we were there in 2017, we actually heard rockets going off in Syria. Now, we were not worried about it because the rockets did not come into Israel, but this is Syria right here. So you're very close to the Syrian border, and that's the Golan right here. This is the Galilee, this is the Golan. So one day, think about it like on our trip, one day we're in the Galilee and the next day we're in the Golan. So let me just go back one. So when we're in the Golan Heights, you'll see the Sea of Galilee from there. We'll see some of the sites that Israel fought in both the 67 war and then the 73 war. It was recently dramatized in the movie Valley of Tears about the battles during the Yom Kippur War, which were very devastating for Israelis. And we'll also be doing a wine tasting in the Golan at the Golan Winery. And so that's a chance for us to taste some wine. We'll also be going to a chocolate factory, the Karina Chocolate Factory in Golan as well. So there'll be stuff there. We're also going to be doing ATV rides in the Golan. And so this will give people a chance to kind of see the Golan and to actually kind of like see why it's so critical for Israel's security and why it's such a beautiful part of Israel. It really is a gorgeous part of Israel. And oh yeah, we did. I mean, it's like, yes, there is a limit. I think it's 2 liters or 3 liters or whatever, 1.5 liters. I mean, I brought home, I'm not sure how much I brought home. I brought home 6. I'm saying I don't know how much because I brought home small bottles. I got dessert wine there that I like at Golan Winery. I always get. So I got 6 bottles. They were, I guess, the half-size bottles. So maybe it was still within, I don't know. I put it in my bag. Nobody, I had it in a box. I didn't even have like loose bottles. I had it in the box. You can also have it shipped home from there. Look, you know, it's always a nice thing. It's always a nice gift to get when you're there. I will tell you this. You can also get really cheap Israeli wine, the same bottles in the duty-free in the airport when you're leaving. It makes it so you don't have to schlep it home. If you want, and it's the same bottles. You can say, hey, I went to this winery and I got you these bottles. You also can obviously get Gamla and Yarden wines here in America and just say you bought it as well. I'm not saying you should do that, but I want to tell you something. It's a nice present to get. Also, by the way, getting people olive oil from Israel, from the Golan, is not a bad gift to get either. I don't know which one I'd rather have explode in my suitcase, the wine or the oil, but I do think that, again, there's no issue with bringing the wine back. They can also ship it. They can also ship it from the Golan. Some people had wines shipped back. So we did the tasting. Again, this was all included in the tour. All of these things are included. The ATV tour, the boat cruise, nothing. You don't have to pay for anything. The only thing you have to have money for are some of the meals, especially the lunches. Some of the dinners now in the Galilee are going to be your responsibility too. The reason that we did that is because we're staying in a different hotel. Originally, we had talked about doing a kibbutz hotel in the Galilee. The kibbutz hotel is too far away from when I was on this trip. I just said we can't have people go up to the kibbutz every day. It takes them too far away from where we are. I was not happy with our hotel that we stayed at in February in the Galilee, so I didn't want to use that hotel either. Tiberias, I will tell you this right off the bat. I've said it, and I have no issue saying it now. The hotels in Tiberias are not the way they should be. I don't know why. I mean, I've asked people and I have answers. Partly it's because Israeli tourists are not going there anymore. It's pretty much American tourists that are going there. Israel tourists to Tiberias used to go up there more in the 70s and 80s. Israeli tourists are much more sophisticated. They go overseas now. They don't even travel within Israel necessarily as much as they used to. I think as the water level in the Sea of Galilee went down, the water parks and some of the water attractions in the Galilee weren't so great. look, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, between you and me, I don't think Lake Tahoe is as nice as it used to be either, but they're,
They're very, yeah.
yes, now they are, but you know, look, for whatever reasons, I think people don't like going to lakes as much as they used to. So I'm not happy with the hotels in Tiberias. The one we got is the best one we could get. The alternative was going to kibbutz. It's just too far away. At least in Tiberias, when we're there, and plus we're there in the summer, the weather is going to be nice. You can go eat down by the lake. There are people who like fish. There's a lot of fish restaurants there. St. Peter's fish, tilapia is the big fish there. I think it's just a much nicer thing to be by the Sea of Galilee. You know, I'm going to change it up on the website. So you'll see the Leonardo Plaza Hotel is where we're staying. It is going through a renovation too, which I saw when I was there. Again, this is all stuff that I take into consideration, but I will tell you that I'm not wild about the situation in Tiberias. And people say it's a political nightmare too, that the city isn't well run. Look, I don't know what it is, but it should be nicer. And Christian tourists are always going to go to Tiberias because it's where Jesus preached. It's much more important for Christians, and it's much more, to me, there's much more Christian sites there than there are even for Christians in Jerusalem. The only sites that people can see in Jerusalem for Jesus are the passion, the last week of Jesus's life. Jesus didn't live in Jerusalem; he lived in the Galilee. He preached in the Galilee. The only thing we know about Jesus in the Christian Bible is from his time in the Galilee. In Nazareth, it says he's from Nazareth, which is in the Galilee. So there's not a lot of sites for Christians to see, really, except for Tiberias in that area. So Christian tourists are always going to come there. So I don't know why they don't do a better job of catering to those tourists. On your own, yeah. And I think, again, just keep in mind that you'll see it, you'll go like, these hotels look like they're 30 years old. The hotel we stayed at, I will never stay in that one again. The one we stayed at in February, I was not happy with that hotel, and that was recommended to me. The hotel we're staying at in Tiberias at Leonardo Plaza is where we stayed 5 years ago. You guys stayed there, the Cogans. You know, we've stayed there many times. It's not my favorite hotel, but it's the best hotel in Tiberias. I really have to say, it's not. There just aren't a lot of options. So then that day, the Golan is just in the Golan Heights. We're just in the Golan that day.
Which day is this?
That's Wednesday. Oh, excuse me, Tuesday. Tuesday, day 10. The 27th. So on the 28th, the day we leave the Golan, we're going to be heading, and this is a long day. I will tell you that this day is the longest day, and it is tough because for those who are not going on to Jordan, you will be wiped out. But there's really no other way to do this. And that is, we're going to be driving from Tiberias, going down the coast. And it takes about an hour, a little over an hour, to get from Tiberias to Rosh Hanikra, our first stop, which I don't have Rosh Hanikra. That's the grottos. We've been there before in previous trips. It's one of the cool, natural sites to see in Israel. I'll just show you on the map real quick. So we're going to be here in Tiberias the night of the 27th, waking up there the 28th. We drive from Tiberias across the top here. We actually go up here, this top road, which, as you can see, is only about 20 miles. But we go up here. We'll be right here in Rosh Hanikra. As you can see, that's Lebanon right there. We're literally on the other side of where we're at is the border of Lebanon. So there's the grottos here right on the coast. They're beautiful grottos. We're going to be there for the morning. That's our first stop. The next stop, we're going to be driving down the coast to Akko. And Akko is the Crusader fort city that was the last site of the Crusader kingdom. We'll have a chance to see the Knights Hall and to go through the Crusader fort, the Kivniks, that outfit that you wore the other day for Purim. If you can wear that you'll get, people will take pictures with you. You might even get people who give you money. They'll stand next to you and take pictures with you. You can bring that, don't, but it's only for that, but it's very, Akko is one of these places where you really feel the timelessness of that Gothic style, that Knights Hall is really an amazing thing to see. So that was the Crusader city of Akko. We'll be there, explore a little bit, and then we'll have lunch in Akko. And then from Akko, we're going to head over to Haifa. We'll have a chance to see the Baha'i temple, and we'll have a chance to look down over the city of Haifa. We won't be there for very long, but it's Israel's third largest city. You'll have a chance to see it, because from there, we have to make our way to Caesarea. And Caesarea is a really amazing city. It's the ruins of the maritime capital for Israel during the time of Herod the Great. Herod built this amazing the city here by the coast, and he had a Roman amphitheater, which you can see there. He had a hippodrome where they raced horses and ran horses. They had amazing palaces. And that's Caesarea. We have to get there by about 3 because that's when the place closes up. So Caesarea is it's above so we go from Akko to Haifa, which is right here. That's just a couple of miles, little bay there. Then we go from Haifa down to Caesarea. Oh, went too far. So you'll have a chance to see Caesarea. And did not come up. I went too far. Here's Caesarea right here. This is the only golf course in Israel right here. It's where Netanyahu lives when he's not in Jerusalem, right here. But this is the Roman city. So we go from Caesarea, and then we come down in about 45 minutes. We're down by Tel Aviv. So that's where we finish. Again, back in Tel Aviv, that's where we'll have dinner. So the drive from Caesarea, you can see, to Tel Aviv Yafo is only about 30 miles, 35 miles, but it's about halfway between Haifa and Tel Aviv. So that'll be our last stop before we come back into dinner, have dinner at about 6:30, and then people who have a flight back will be going back from Tel Aviv to from the dinner to Ben Gurion Airport. For those of us that are going on to Jordan, we will be dropping the people off at the airport, and then, believe it or not, we're driving from there down to En Gedi. Why are we going to En Gedi? Because the next day, those of us that are going to Jordan are crossing over into here. So En Gedi is, why are we staying in En Gedi? Well, we could stay in Jerusalem, but if we're staying in En Gedi, we're that much closer. We don't have to deal with traffic in Jerusalem, and we can go up about 12 miles to go across the bridge into, this is the bridge into Jordan. Okay, so let me just show you again. So this is the way to cross into Jordan. So we'll be here for that night. En Gedi is in Israel. This is the border between the West Bank and so the West Bank goes here and then around Jerusalem, back up there, and that's the West Bank. So En Gedi is here. It's right as you get into Israel here. So look, in an ideal world, we would have stayed overnight in Jericho the night before we cross into Jordan. We can't. This is an example of a perfect situation. They built a beautiful hotel in Jericho in '94 when we thought there was going to be a peaceful situation. They even built a casino there. Israel doesn't have casinos. The idea was it was going to be like the place where Israelis could go to gamble. Sounds like Chumash, right? Temecula, whatever. That's exactly what it was supposed to be. Didn't work out that way. When the Intifada started, this shut down, and it's open as a hotel again, but it's not a casino, and it never happened. What happened, it was open for like 2 years. it didn't work. So this whole area is under, it's nominally, different parts of it are under Palestinian control. So that's why we're staying in En Gedi. The next day, we're going to be going, for those going into Jordan, we're going to be going around, and we're going to be going here down to Petra. Now, let me show you. Petra's down here. You can go to Petra either this way, or you can go to Petra this way. Either way, it's a long drive. I'm not going to tell you it ain't a long drive. It's a long drive. It's about a 4-hour drive. Now we break it up. We'll split it up so that there'll be, we'll stop someplace for lunch. We'll get to Petra, and then we will. For those that are going to Petra, we'll go. We'll get into Petra in the afternoon. We'll show you some of what they call Little Petra, which is some of the Nabatean ruins. The next day, first thing in the morning, and this is a little change from the way we originally had it. We're going to take people first thing in the morning on Thursday morning into Petra. So you'll be able to go in the morning, first thing. Well, petrified means the same thing. It comes from the word rock, right? So Petra means rock in Latin, in Greek, so in Latin. So that's why it is called Petra. But you'll be able to go into, hold it one second. You'll be able to go into into Petra first thing in the morning. We're staying a mile away from the entrance to Petra. The hotel we stayed at was very nice. It opened last year. I think your mom will tell you, and your brother, your family will tell you, it's a good hotel. A nice hotel in Petra. It's called Petra Canyon Hotel. It's like I said, I think it opened at the end of 2022. It was nice. It has a pool. It has, it's a new hotel. And so you'll be able to go first thing in the morning. We'll beat the heat. We'll beat the crowds. It is definitely a tourist attraction. We had a great time there. People loved it. We'll have more than enough time to explore Petra, and then we'll have a chance to have lunch there at Petra. That'll be included in the trip, the lunch. And then from Petra, and we'll be with a Jordanian guide in Jordan. You have to have a Jordanian guide, and you have to have a Jordanian bus. There's a little bit of a switch because we have to get off one bus and get onto another bus when we get to Jordan. You have to. Everyone has to. It doesn't matter where you come from. You have to do that. Even if you come from a lot, it doesn't matter. You have to change. I will also tell you, I don't care. We paid a bribe of $10 or something, so that, not a person, $10 total to make sure that we didn't have to everyone's bags x-rayed. I have no idea why it was $10. I thought it was going to be $10 a person. I was still willing to pay it because it just adds time to it. But they literally took one person's bag off, paid $10, and that was it. And so I don't know, weird, but that is different rules when you're in a country like Jordan. So we'll have time to explore Petra. Then we'll leave in the afternoon. We'll head to the Wadi Rum, which is where we will explore this. We will get there in the afternoon, give people a chance to, we'll have probably some chances to explore some of the sites in the desert. I had never done a trip to Wadi Rum before. It's about 2 hours from Petra. It's amazing desert, and it looks a little bit like, Arizona or Utah, those kind of places, but it is gorgeous. And it's a little bit more, you're in an Arab country. So, again, you see people, you're living, there's people like this that are, you're in an Arab country. If that doesn't interest you, don't go. But if you're interested in seeing the way another country is very close to Israel, but is completely run differently, I had never been to Wadi Rum. I definitely recommend it. This was a place we walked across this art. It was like an arch, like in arches in Utah, but you actually can walk across it, and we did. we'll have a chance the next day, the first thing in the morning, to go on a camel ride in the morning. On Friday morning, we did change the campsite we're staying at. We were going to originally stay at this place called Echa, which is where we stayed at in February. It was okay, the place we stayed at. What I didn't like about it is you had to take vans to get there, and I didn't like the vans that it was not well. I was not happy that people had to wait extra time to go through that. So I made a decision. I asked some people, I said, is there a better place like this that you don't have to do this? And so I looked it up and did some research on it, and it looked very similar, but it had a much better rating. So it's called Sun City, and that's where we're staying. So this is kind of what it looks like when you go out in the 4x4s. This doesn't do justice to the landscape that you feel like when you're in there. Somebody just, one of our travelers did this.
Interesting surprise.
So this is what Wadi Rum looks like. And I will show you what. Yeah, no, they're like, oh wait, I'm getting somebody's, nope, still coming through. This is what the tents look like. Yeah. Not really. They appear that they are, but they're not. They're covered. They're like tent cabins that have a foundation. I'm still getting. So those are some of the cabins are the domes, and some of them are. So I will tell you that the bathrooms and the setup is they're very nice. They're modern. I actually can show you because you know what, I'll show you because I do care about that kind of stuff. I'll show you the video that I did. So we'll have a camel ride first thing in the morning, and I'll show you what this is what the rooms look like. So they have air conditioning there. I mean, you don't feel like you're in a tent, you're in like a little hotel room. The bathrooms were clean. They were like it was like a real shower with a shower door and stuff like that. So you don't feel like you're in a tent, but so it's like you're in a hotel room, and they're nice. And the place was really nice. So the place that we're going to, Sun City, is an upgrade from where we were originally going to have our stay in Wadi Rum. So that's the itinerary. So again, the Jordan extension is $11.50 extra, which includes the hotels, the tours, and in Jordan it includes all the meals except for lunch on the way out from Jordan. We'll stop like at I want to say it's like a not a truck stop, but it's like a it's like a rest stop, on the turnpike. It's one of those kind of places, and so it'll include all the meals, all the dinners, the breakfast, the whole trip are covered. But in Jordan, it also includes the dinners and the lunches, the lunch on the day that we're in Petra. So the only meal that you'd have to take care of is the lunch and dinner on the way back. We go right back from Jordan to take people to the airport. And so you'll get to the airport with a few hours. Do not book a flight earlier than 10 o'clock and you'll be fine.
So we're actually going to be flying. What is so it's 10 o'clock and this is on July 1st?
Correct. So on July 1st, you need to leave either at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, or what most people are doing, leave at 1 o'clock in the morning on the second. So make sure that you do not book a ticket 1 o'clock on the first. Do it on 1 o'clock at the second, or 12 o'clock, by the way. Why do I say that? Because most of the flights back to the United States, either if you're going through LA or you're going through New York, most of the flights leave, you'll see it 0:45 or 1 in the morning or 30 in the morning. That means 12:30, 12:45, 1 o'clock. That's when most of the flights go outbound from Israel. So make sure that's the second.
So
Make sure that's a second.
And we booked it goes back to.
Correct. If you book a flight that's at 6 or 7 o'clock and you don't want to stay in the airport, we can arrange for a hotel for you. We did that for some people who didn't want to stay in the hotel at the airport overnight. It's entirely up to you. You're in between, but we'll talk about it. You know, when Tracy and I, we flew on that Frankfurt, we flew on a flight. I don't think you're flying it to Berlin, aren't you? Yeah, we flew to Frankfurt, and the European flights, and again, some of you might, we had a couple people that were flying back through London. They don't leave at the same time. They don't leave at 1 o'clock in the morning. They leave at 4 o'clock in the morning. Why? Because they get in roughly the same time. They just leave 4 or 5 hours later and get people in for the flight. Remember, you'll leave on the second at 12 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning. You'll get into LA at 7 or 8, 6 or 7 in the morning. You get back the same day, 4 or 5 hours later with the time change going back the other way. So don't be confused at that. You will get back on the same day that you leave. But if you have a direct flight, it'll be 4 or 5 hours later. So don't be confused by that. But yeah, the European flights tend to leave a little later and get in, roughly around the same time into Europe. But when Tracy and I did that, we stayed overnight at a hotel by the airport. If I had to do it again, I would have just stayed in the airport. But the airport in Israel is easy to get through if you come in a group. Sometimes you wait, you can get stuck in a line, and you could be in a line for an hour at the airport in Israel. Once you go through security, it's super quick, but until you go through security, it's not super quick. And if you come in with us and your flight is, let's say, at 10 o'clock or 1 o'clock, 10:30 to 1 o'clock, you come in with us, you'll go through security pretty fast. We have an agent that takes us through, and it goes a lot faster. But all I can tell you is, I don't know what it's going to be like in the summer. I know there's going to be birthright trips. I know there's going to be groups. When we went in the summer, we made a mistake. We left on the day that the Maccabi games ended, and we got stuck in Maccabi traffic that was insane. But we were there partly for the Maccabi game. So we did, we knew what we were doing. So I will tell you, be careful about that. Oh yeah.
I remember this flight actually before Israel, that it says, a lot of like 4 hours from the time you get to your hotel to the flight. So that's still the case?
Well, if you're coming with us, you'll get there at least you need 3 hours if you're with us. 2 to 3 hours, they say. But pass the mic up to the Kivniks so people can hear you. It's on.
One of us, the lady of the lake here, in her medieval costume, is gluten intolerant.
Yes.
What is eating in Israel and for the short time in Jordan?
Yeah, in Israel, it's much easier to have gluten-free options because there's a lot of restaurants that have gluten-free bread and have gluten-free options and have gluten-free cereals. So in Israel, it's much more common. In Jordan, a little bit harder, but they don't eat that much bread. And quite frankly, there wasn't that much bread at the hotel, at the tent place we stayed at. There wasn't that much bread. I mean, everything else was fine in Jordan. Same thing with the meals. The meals were all meat and rice or couscous and vegetables. There's a lot of vegetables. It was pretty much, Jordan had pretty much the same style of food of, Middle Eastern style food, just a little less options. I mean, but overall, there was a lot of options for people that were that were gluten-free. There were not a lot of options for vegetarians, but I knew Jordan was like that. I did fine. I didn't care. Yeah,
Couscous, by the way, is not gluten free.
I know,
Okay, so I guess my question really, and my husband jumped the gun, so that I was not able to answer it to get the answer that I need. So there are many lunches and a few dinners that are involved. Are those a la carte dinners or prepared meals?
so no. All the dinners that are included, are buffet.
Buffet, okay.
So all the meals that are included, with the exception of one or two, like the one in the tasting at lunch at in Carmel Market, they're all buffet. There's no, I can't think of any of them that are a la carte. The Friday night dinner is a buffet. All the dinners and all the breakfasts that are included are buffet. I can't think of any other meals. The final dinner that we have together is not, that's served family style. That's also included, the last dinner that we have together, but there's no gluten stuff there except for pita bread. And most of it is not the pita bread.
No, I can manage it, just didn't know if they were sit down
Nothing,
and
nothing, no.
pre-ordered. Okay.
Everything is a buffet.
And the other question I have is, if when we sign up, there's a deposit that has to be made. If for some reason or other, we need to change our minds or need to pull out of the trip, is that refundable?
Yeah, so the trip is completely refundable until 30 days before. Okay, so, and then, but you can talk to me about what the policy is within 30 days. I think you lose like 75% of your deposit. So that's what happens. You don't lose all your deposit, but you lose most of your deposit if it's within 30 days. But other 60 days before. But if you had to cancel within 30 days, before 30 days, from 60 to 30 days, there's still no penalty. It's only within the last 30 days that there's a penalty. Part of that, by the way, is because of the way I negotiated the trip because we don't have an operator we don't have a middle person on the operation here. And so we're allowed to do that. The other thing is we already have more than enough people to guarantee that we're going. So, so I just saw another synagogue put up a thing that said, if we don't get 25 people, the trip doesn't go. Well, synagogues do that. We've never had that. We've never pulled out a trip. So we don't have that problem. And as I've told people, we have a limit of 40. Right now, we have about 31 people that have already put deposits down. So not everybody is on today. But most people are. We have a few families and a few people that are not on, but we only have space really for about 9 more people. So if some people drop out, we're able to get a couple people on. That's actually kind of what happened with Lisa's brothers. We had a couple that dropped out at the last minute, 2 people, and so that allowed us to get 2 more people on. So I will tell you this: the hotels in Israel are pretty much sold out. They don't care. They also are not like they'll fill them up. So they have no issue with us canceling, because as far as they're concerned, we're getting a cheaper rate than that they'd get if they put it out there. So it's not great for us in the sense that they're not negotiating, because they don't need to do anything. But we were still able to lock down a price that was much lower than what other trips do, because we're not using a middle, we're not using a wholesaler. We're going directly with the tour operator in Israel. So that's when people say, well, how is it $1,000 cheaper? Because there's no middle person. People have asked before, is there any, technically speaking, when you're making a payment, you're paying a nonprofit. And that's all I can tell you about that. That's all I'll say.
That's a question.
Yeah,
What?
that's what I saw.
It's just a practical question as well on the money side of things.
So on, I don't know how it's changed in 10 years, but on other, trips we've gone on, they say, bring a certain amount of American or not, the currency of the country because ATMs, stuff like that are on always.
That's not true.
So
So
you
here's,
probably
here,
go right
so
to
that's a good question, Don. Let me answer the question right now. I do not, do whatever you want. I don't recommend changing money before you go. I recommend using an ATM in Israel of a bank, not a random ATM in a restaurant, not a random ATM in a liquor store. Go to an ATM, and I'll show you which ones, and they're pretty easy to find that they're bank ATMs. You go to bank ATM, you're going to pay a very small commission, and you don't have to pay the same kind of conversion factor. So if you go to an ATM, I don't recommend taking out more than $200-250. I mean, there's no need for it. Use your credit card for everything else. And if for whatever reason you come home, you're in the airport, you say, oh, I have an extra 100 shekels, which is roughly like $20-25. I will buy it back from you. I do not charge any interest, any conversion rate. If you're worried about getting stuck, I go to Israel all the time. I probably bought back like $300 or $400 worth of shekels from people at the airport who didn't want to get stuck with shekels. Do not worry about it. I don't recommend on this trip. Some people were worried about having dinars, of having Jordanian money. I bought something with dollars and then got changed back in dinars and then used it at a couple places. I gave dinar tips to a few people. You don't have to give tips in dinars. You can give tip to the tour guide in Jordan, and you can give them $20-30 for the family, for the couple, whatever. They're more than happy to take your dollars. You do not need to get Jordanian money for the 2 days that we're there. You can. I'm not going to buy your dinars, by the way. I'm not going to keep your dinars, but you can get dinars if you want. There's really no need. And quite frankly, a lot of people, they took out $200-300 in shekels. A lot of people still had $40 or $50, $100 in shekels when they left. So people use their cards for everything. It's a pretty cashless society there too. But if you want to have some shekels, by all means, you can do it. And as I said, I will not let you get stuck with them. The worst case scenario too, you can give them as charity to someplace if on the way back. So,
If we have the same tour guide on the bus the whole time.
Mhm.
How much do you recommend that we tip the bus?
So the tour guide and the bus driver, generally speaking, the recommended amount, and again, it's whether, if you don't have to do it, it's a tip. If you didn't like the person, then do whatever you want. They recommend $4 a day for the bus driver and $8 a day for the tour guide. So, look, if you're going there and it's two of you, and we're there it's $150, for 7-8 days. I mean, the first day you're not touring with the person, so you don't include that day, but it's, 7 or 8 days, maybe it's $50-60 for the Israeli tour guide and $25-30 for the bus driver. So it's up to you. I mean, it'll all be, I'll give people an email explaining that. I also like to, as we get closer, people have questions about electrical conversion and what kind of, things that they should bring. You don't need to have a fancy electrical converter unless you have a hair dryer or something that you want to have, that you has to have it. Every hotel we're staying at has hair dryers in them. If you want to have your own hair curler or whatever else that needs a high, has a high wattage thing, then you have to bring a converter. You have to bring one. Other than that, all you need is an adapter, and you plug it in. You can use it for your computer. You can use it for anything. And they have a lot of universal adapters that are $5-10 on Amazon. Get one of those, and then you can use it when you go to England. You can use it when you go to Europe. Israel uses a European conversion. The Jordanian, you'll look this up for those who are going to Jordan. It'll say they have different kinds. I'm going to send everyone an email about it now. You don't have to worry about it. Jordan, it says they have different kinds of outlets, which is true. They don't have a standard outlet there, but most of them take the European same outlet as Israel does. So people had some questions about it because it looked a little different. Trust me, it's the same. But, and we're staying at one of the same hotels and the other one I think is virtually the same. So you don't have to worry about getting any kind of fancy adapter or converter. Just get a universal adapter and you're good to go.
Regarding that, as an electrical engineer who's purchased hundreds of thousands of dollars of power supplies, almost anything you own today will go into 220, 240, 110, 120, and doesn't care if it's 50 hertz or 60 hertz. So the same charger you use to recharge your cell phone here in the Los Angeles area, as long as you convert the prongs at the end,
Yep.
that's the only thing you have to worry about.
And that's an adapter. That's the difference between an adapter and a converter. You do not need a converter unless you have a hair device, something that generates amount that you just heard, you have an electrical engineer here. If you're doing normal stuff with a computer, with a charger, with your phone charger, all you need is an adapter. That's all you need, an adapter. You do not need a converter.
So
Adaptive mechanical.
Yeah, so my thought, now, last time, this was way back in the day.
Uh-huh.
I remember we brought MiFi as one of the things.
You don't need those.
I mean, it's like some amount per day, unless you were, gonna be doing remote back to an office, it was a waste of money.
We had a couple people, we had a couple people who brought little hubs, little pebbles, they call it. Generally speaking, your phone company, T-Mobile is very inexpensive if you're traveling internationally. We just moved from T-Mobile to AT&T. AT&T has a $10 a day international fee. You pay $10 a day. You get to use unlimited phone calls, unlimited internet for $10 a day on AT&T. It's even better in a way than the T-Mobile.
Yeah.
T-Mobile was, you pay 25 cents for calls. And again, nowadays, most people do their calls when they're international, they do them through WhatsApp or through Facebook or FaceTime. They use a Wi-Fi call. So you don't even have to do that anyways. But I recommend, just using what you have on your phone and just get the plan, get whatever plan you can get for that
Just
phone.
Just a hint, because Cheryl and I learned this. And it depends if you're going for extended time. So, yeah, like, for example, Verizon, you can get that $10 a day if you can make up to calls or text. But if you're going for 30 days or a long trip, you can pay $100 and you can make as many calls as you want in a number of days. So it depends, it's almost like a break even.
You're talking about for having a hub.
Phone service, yeah. So instead of paying the $10 a day standard thing, pay $100.
I know, but for people who are going on this trip, I know you went away for 3 weeks. Yes, there's a break, even, but not for this trip. For this trip, I would use whatever phone service you have, ask how much the per day plan is, and just do that. There's no need to complicate it. And the same,
Yeah.
correct.
Only if you do an extended trip beyond like we are.
And use WhatsApp or use FaceTime or use any of these other things for your phone calls, including, by the way, you can use Messenger for if you want to use Facebook, if you want to use FaceTime on your Apple phone. There's a lot of ways to do voice over Wi-Fi calls. So it's not an issue anymore. It's nothing you have to worry about. And Jordan and Israel are the same thing. We had very good Wi-Fi and very good cell phone coverage the entire time we were there. Even in the desert, we had coverage.
It doesn't charge you.
No,
And it's not worth
nothing.
getting a SIM card.
Nothing. Don't get a SIM card. Don't let anybody talk you into crazy stuff unless you're going for 2 more weeks and you want to, let's say you're going to Europe. These guys are going to Africa. I mean, look, if you're going to a bunch of places, then maybe there's but do not overcomplicate this. It is, you'll get enough Wi-Fi and cellular coverage. The hotels we're staying at all have really good Wi-Fi. And so, make your calls over Wi-Fi when you're in the hotel too. So, any questions from those at home? We've got a bunch of people at home who've been real quiet. Everyone's muted, but if you have anything to say, guys, anybody want to say anything? Somebody's muted. Hold it a second. Well, I can't unmute people, but I can ask them to unmute. Everyone's muted. Okay, so if anyone wants to share, please do so now. We can't hear you. Hello. Anybody? Harvey, they want you to talk. I guess Harvey doesn't want to talk. All right. So anybody else? I mean, other than that, we'll does anyone want to introduce themselves that are at home? Nobody here introduced themselves, by the way. Yes, we could introduce ourselves before we go. Harvey, since we volunteered you, Harvey and Sharon, why don't you introduce yourself since you have other people on there who you can introduce as well. Harvey, you're muted.
Okay, I'm
There you are.
unmuted.
Yeah.
Sharon's sitting here. It's Harvey and Sharon. We are coming second time with Rabbi Mark, and we are bringing our daughter, granddaughter, and son-in-law, celebrating her bat mitzvah from last year and again this year, and the kids' 20th wedding anniversary. And looking forward to coming. This will be our third trip to Israel and second time with Rabbi Mark.
Awesome.
And Don and Cheryl are going to be there too for the second time. We went
That's
with them the first time.
Well, your family was on. I don't see if they're on still.
There are, it says Ron's phone 12.
Oh, Ron, yeah, Ron's phone's there. Yeah, I see it. Ron's phone is up. So, well, thank you guys for being there.
Here.
There you are. Okay. So we have
Is
Ron.
Emily on the phone?
No,
And-
she's
She's studying.
All right. Well, it's good to have your family here with us. And we've got, well, why don't we have the people? Well, you know something? I'm going to put there's Roger. There's everybody. Well, hold a second. It would help if I actually took this computer and made it video friendly. There we go. There's everybody out here. There's our group here. There we go. So there you are at the top. Actually, you know what? Make it even
That's you.
more, let's see. So I'm now going to make everybody here on. Well, there we go. There's everybody. All right. So now you can all wave to
Who
the
is
people
that?
at home.
No.
So I just got an email from Roger Schiffman, who's muted, but he had a very good question, which and his family, the Schneiders are on too. The Schneiders are going to have a B'nai Mitzvah, twin 2-for-1. He had a great question. Do we have a reading list? Absolutely. We have a reading list. We send that out a little bit closer, but since we've had a request for it, we're going to start sending out monthly emails, and we will get this for people, I guess sooner rather than later, since it's been requested. But we have I'll just share with you some of the books that I'll show you right now, but you'll get this email. And this is, and everyone on this trip is going to be getting a book a little bit closer to the trip, where you're actually going to be able to do some reading, and we're going to send you all a book that you get as part of your trip. And the book is called a Jewish Spiritual Guide to Israel, and everyone will be getting that pretty soon. But let me just send you out the reading list. Hold it. It went out about, hold it. Let's see. This is, here, I'll show it to you right now. Let me just send this out. But it's a great question, and I do want everyone to be able to have a chance to see this. Okay, it is right here, I think. Hold it. So no, it's not there. That's the wrong one. That's nothing. Here, sorry. So this is some suggested reading. Everybody's going to get this book. We're going to be sending that out about a month before. And then here's some other titles that I recommend that I'll send out to people. That was one for people who are Christian, who are interested in special sites that they're going to see. This is a little bit more of a conservative historical overview of modern Israel. This is a more liberal one. This one is not really political, but more what's actually in Israel. And then this is a fictional story, but it's one of still the great books about Israel. Somebody's reading this right now. Who was just telling me they were reading this? It's 1,000 pages. Yeah. Yeah, but somebody just said that they're reading it. It's 1,000 pages. It's a great book. And Mishner wrote it, 40, 50 years ago. And it's still an amazing, the source by James Mishner. So it's loosely about Megiddo, but it has a great overview of Israel's history, the history of the Jewish people. Definitely recommend it it's just a great book. So we sent out some other emails, and there was a link to the June trip in case people weren't going to be going. So we will get from you, by the way, these things, including dietary restrictions. So you don't have to worry about letting anyone know. It'll be with your stuff, and they will be doing that. This also, we'll be doing the same thing. As soon as we have all the information, we're going to be sending it to my friend who's the consul general here on the West Coast, and he sends that on to Israel, and it helps us get through security a little bit faster. So we'll have a chance to, we'll get your information as we get closer, including your passport information. Some of you already sent that to me. Some of you haven't, but we'll need it for everybody. But yeah, over the coming weeks, we'll get that from everybody. And as I said, when the very, very final itinerary is done, and the itinerary is not going to change much, as I said, maybe a couple things based on what's open and what's in good shape with water levels and those kind of things. Then we will send it out, the final itinerary, about a month before with the book, with the Jewish spiritual guide. Yeah. So will we automatically get an invoice for the final payment? No, you won't, but because now we have it set up so that you'll be provided with the link to do it. If you want to send a check in, you can do that too, but the link is the easiest way to do it. People can pay by check. It makes no difference. It's actually better for us if you send a check, but it doesn't matter. I don't care. It's so easy to do it that I just want to make sure that it was easy for people. If you do it from your phone, you can do it from your computer, you do it from anywhere. It's easy to do it over the computer. But yeah, if you want to send in a check, you can do that too. There's no, for us, it makes no difference. It seems like most people wanted to do it by credit card, but the information for the deposit and the information for the payments are all on that registration, on the registration fee, on the registration, which I'll just put up one more time for everybody to see. I think I think everyone's seen it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. But the information and the link for the registration is through the same way that we do all of our stuff through the temple. It's through GiveSmart. It's very easy to use. So again, It allows people to pay the deposit, very soon I'll take that down, so that option won't be there because everyone will put in the deposit. Again, each person has to fill it out separately, and the balance is here, you just hit that. You can't do it twice. I have it set so that you can only do it for one per person. A single supplement, which really doesn't apply to anyone here right now. And the Petra Jordan, you put in all the information here. If you do this with the old-fashioned way, with the check, you just send it in like that. And you can also send it in with your credit card information if you don't want to do it online. So, and yes, some people did it by PayPal, only you guys, but it can be done. It doesn't matter. It's just, yeah, it used to be PayPal used to be pretty big, and it's not so much anymore. So technically speaking, it can also be done with Apple Pay. Who knew? So how we just made it as easy as possible. It gave people as many options as possible. So any other questions? Any other comments? Anyone want to chat anything? If you're online, if you want to chat anything, do not hesitate to reach out to me, call me, email me. If you have any questions, I can tell you that like I said, it looks like it's going to be an amazing trip as far as the weather was going to be great. We only had one bad day of weather, by the way, on this trip to Israel in February, but it was really bad. The day that we were there, that it was raining, it really rained. But after that, it didn't rain at all. So we were really glad that we got it all out of our way. We will not have that problem. The only problem we might have is the heat, in which case, again, we're adjusting, and we may adjust things, do something in the morning rather than in the afternoon, vice versa. Might flip something around because of the weather if it gets really hot, but that's the only, it's not going to be raining. That I can almost promise it's not going to rain. So what? It's dry heat. Look, it's not any hotter than it is here. The issue is that most people you don't go touring in this kind of weather here. It's not going to be probably even as hot as it is in Santa Clarita. But again, it's one thing. You'll be on an air-conditioned bus, but when you're not on the air-conditioned bus, we want people to be comfortable. So we're not going to do anything that we're putting people in jeopardy. There'll be water provided there's water on the bus, cold water bottles. Don't worry about staying hydrated and that kind of thing. But the only time I've ever had a problem with hydration and people overheating was on our birthright trip that we did a few years ago, and we had some kids that had too much fun the night before. So it's only actually one, but yes, that's the only time we've ever had a hydration issue. So
Any packing recommendations?
as far as packing, no, we're gonna send out, there'll be some packing recommendations as we get closer. When we know a little bit more about again, we'll give people some kind of stuff about the weather. Definitely bring bathing suits. There's a couple days where we'll be doing that. Women are the only, again, there's a couple places, and we'll let people know ahead of time when there's areas that we're going to go to where you can't wear shorts or, those kind of clothes. But for the most part, the dress is, we'll let people know ahead of time what kind of dress. Yeah, unfortunately, this only applies to women. But we'll let people know when we're going. It's really only 2 days where women have to have, coverage.
Okay, how much?
We'll let people know. It's pretty much, as long as they're not wearing, cutoffs or, shorts, it's not going to be an issue. And it's really only 2 sites, as I said. It's really at the wall, and when we're in Tzfat, in the synagogue there. Other than that, there's not going to be any issue. So as I said, it will, we'll tell people, you can bring a scarf and you cover yourself up, when we go into a couple synagogues in Tzfat, but that's it. I mean, I don't think there's, no. As I said, you bring a scarf, a long scarf, bring it on, just a wrap. Get the wrap on, and then that's the easiest thing to do. That's what I recommend. There's no reason you do not People ask me this all the time. Do you have to bring a dress? No, absolutely not. Especially a guy. You don't have to bring a dress. But if you bring a wrap and you want to put on a wrap when on the few times that we're going into a synagogue, that's the only thing that you have to worry about. There's no other place where you have to wear a wrap or any kind of, in Tel Aviv, people are pretty much walking around naked. So there's nothing. Okay, I didn't say naked. I said pretty much naked. Somebody's going to say there's people said they're naked people. No, pretty much naked, but not fully naked. But they're walking around in bathing suits, definitely in the summer in Tel Aviv. So yeah, I'm looking forward to everybody having a chance to enjoy Israel during the summer. Like I said, we got lucky with the weather, with the exception of one day before, but I said that already, but I think we'll be really good with the weather. And let's hope we went early enough in the summer so that we wouldn't have this. I would have liked to have gone a week earlier. It wasn't good for some people's schedules. So, we are going the 18th. I would have loved to have gone about the 10th, but this is fine. It's not going to, another week is not going to make it that much hotter. July and August can get hot. Yeah.
We did, my recollection, but we did some kind of way of like having a picture share, so like if you had photos, you could like upload them and then we created a flip drive. Is there something to maybe be able to use? Like, let's say I don't like posting things on Facebook before I go home because I'm going to have a sign there.
Nobody, what are you talking about?
Maybe this is a way to kind of upload.
Nobody wants to see your pictures. No, I'm just kidding. No, I absolutely, we want to see your pictures, and we do. And I'm going to show you right now. You guys are jumping the gun, but yes, we are. No, it's a good question. We are going to set up as we did on this trip, and I'll show you exactly what we did because I have the computer right here. We set up a Google Drive, which allowed people to share their pictures. And let me just put it up there for you to see. Listen, one person's going to post. Nobody did. But I told people, please be careful with your pictures and don't post, be careful and, choose your pictures wisely. Don't go back a couple extra days to something that you took at home. But it didn't happen, thankfully. Did not happen. I didn't have to here, let me show you what we did. So no, but it is a good question. And we made it, this was ready to go. Well, hello, it's only 2 weeks ago. This is what we had for this trip. I'll post it up here so you can see it. So this is the Google Drive that we have for people's pictures. So here's people who took pictures and they posted them. And people posted pictures. Actually, a couple of the pictures that I posted up, that one right there, I posted up, I was taken not by me, some cool pictures that people took. So, look, as long as people, don't, yeah, exactly. That was the rainy day we were in Jerusalem. But aside from these were all pictures I took of people going into the Bethlehem in the manger. So yeah, again, we'll have this up. You'll be able to do a picture drop and, people will be able to share their pictures. It's a good question, Don. I was joking, but just be careful. We don't want to see any inappropriate pictures of your wife. Or you, especially you.
Desert, and it's so hot during the day. Is it cold? Does it get cold at night? Is it cool at night?
I don't know. It didn't get that cold when we were there in February. The difference in Wadi Rum was not that cold at night. It wasn't super cold at night now, and it wasn't super hot either. But it was February, so I don't know what the difference is going to be like in the summer. In reality, but I didn't think it got that cold at night. It did not freeze at night. Let's put it that way. It was not that cold, but it might be in the summer. I mean, I think you'll notice the difference a lot more, but I don't think, look, that we've timed this so that the activities that we're doing are not going to be in the heat of the day. So we're going, the camel ride that we're going to do is going to be first thing in the morning. And we did that even when we were there we even when we did that in this last trip, you know, the camel ride was literally first thing in the morning. I mean, you can't see it so much in this picture, but this was literally as the sun was coming up. So you can tell in that picture, it was dawn, literally the dawn. That's when we went out. So we'll do the same thing. We won't do it in the heat of the day. And it's beautiful. I mean, when we came out, we literally watched the sun come up over the mountains in the desert, and it was unbelievable. So I definitely recommend the camel ride. I think almost everybody, this was a hookah lounge that they had at the tents. So it's a cool experience. I mean, they gave people these robes, which they do and then everyone liked wearing the robes, feeling like they were in Lawrence of Arabia. So, but it is really beautiful. I will tell you that I didn't know what to expect, and I was impressed by this was somebody else's tent. This was a little bit larger tent. That was a 2-person tent. I was in a 1-person tent. It's a 2-person tent. What? It's easy, Cheryl. The camel goes down, you get on it, you get you don't have to do it, Cheryl. No, there's nothing you have to do, but there definitely were people who were worried about doing it, and then they did it and they really liked it. Yeah. About 10 people didn't go. We had 40 people in Jordan, 27 of them did the camel ride in the morning. And I don't know if some of them were not wanting to get up in the morning, or whether they didn't want to get on a camel, but it's included. Again, you don't have to go, but you don't have to pay extra for it either. So already included. You've already paid for it. All right, folks. All right. Any other questions? We'll wrap it up. You have questions come up afterwards, please send them to me, email me. And then again, if they're really good questions, not like Don's question, no. If they're very good questions, we'll circulate them. We'll circulate them out around, because no, people had some questions about things like that, umbrellas, whether they should bring umbrellas and things like, that's not relevant for this trip. But yeah, if there's something that people say, we'll send it around too. All right, everybody. And thank you all for good questions and a chance to meet each other. So we'll see you soon. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.